Hey folks, Pat here from DNS, and this Madison area fishing report is current as of May 24th. Well, it's a rainy morning here at the shop, and we've had quite a few people through, so I've been taking care of customers, and people like to hang out and chat for a while, which is totally fine, except when you've got a fishing report to get out. So I'm trying to sneak this in between customers, and we'll see how it goes. So let's just before we get started, the Yahara Fishing Club is hosting their Kids Fishing Day the first Saturday here in June. This year is June 1st, so next Saturday down at the Warner Park Lagoon. The deal is they give the first 300 kids that show up a free fishing rod and bait, along with help from members to help them catch some fish. At the end, there's a hot dog lunch, chips, and a soft drink, and it really is just a fantastic event. I mean, they're doing 300 kids in the summer one, and then a whole bunch in the winter time. Think about all the kids that they're getting into fishing. So I really want to thank the Yahara Fishing Club for doing this event. We donate bait to it, but it's just an awesome event and a great opportunity to get kids into fishing. So if you've got a young person you want to try to get into fishing, this is a great way to do it, and not much commitment on your end. As far as the report goes, last weekend was gorgeous. Then a bunch of rain came through with damaging thunderstorms on Tuesday night. I made a post about how I had to sleep here at the shop that night, but all is well, and we're back at it here. Saturday looks nice. Tomorrow looks nice, but maybe a little more rain on Sunday. But the week ahead actually looks super nice too. So some good opportunities to get out there and enjoy some fine spring fishing we've got going on. The Mendota buoy is still not fully. It's out there and it's floating. But they don't. It says here the temperature string is coming soon, so that's not up yet. That does read a surface temp of 62 degrees right now, and you can pretty much take a degree or maybe a little more as you move down the chain as far as water temps go, if that helps you get a guide to what's going on out there. But generally around the chain, things are changing every day this time of year. But most fish are up shallow to spawn. Problem is the weeds are also shallow and making accessibility to those fish a little difficult in spots. I feel like everything kind of happened early this year and kind of all at once. Maybe the warm up we had back in March kind of just kicked things off a little earlier than normal. I'm really not sure what it is, but gills are definitely on beds at least a week earlier than I remember from any previous year. Speaking of beds, I guess I'll just sneak this in here. While it is an easy way to catch some of the best fish you'll catch all year, I would like to ask folks to please not keep fish off beds so we can maintain the great fishing we have in our area here. But that being said, depending on who you talk to, bluegills are spawning on all the lakes, and while it's just starting on Lake Mendota, it's already winding down on Waubesa and Kegonsa. This time of year, you can find gills anywhere from 2 to 15 feet of water. But generally speaking, I'd say your bigger fish do like to spawn in a little deeper water. Small ice fishing size jig tipped with a piece of redworm, spike, or waxworm is really all you need for those fish. And if you've never tried fishing for gills with a fly rod, I'd really suggest giving it a chance. It's really a great time, and those bluegills, when they see a little beadhead nymph, especially like a pink squirrel come down in front of them, they pretty much can't resist it, and it's a great time on a light fly rod. Otherwise, crappies are done spawning and can be found out a little bit deeper now, so maybe 12 to 15 feet of water on weed edges. And I've heard about some suspended fish at those depths over deeper water already. Crappie minnow or a minnow-shaped plastic on a small jig is a pretty safe bet for those fish. Bass are finishing up on Mendota, but are basically done and are pretty much done spawning everywhere else on the chain. They have their post-spawn feed bag on, so great opportunities out there. Lots of things work well for bass this time of year, but with the weeds coming up, a weedless rigged plastic or like a swim jig can be a good option. Catfish action remains good here on the north side, with cut bait still working well, but the crawler bite sounds like it's getting better every day. Walleye are moving deeper as the water warms, and I've heard about fish coming out of water as deep as 25 feet already. Jerk and swim baits are working well at night when they're up shallow, but a more subtle presentation like a leech or a large fathead under a bobber is a good idea during the day, or jigging or drop shotting too. All that works, but just something more subtle during the day is a great way to get them. Although folks do find plenty of fish trolling as well. I don't want to forget to mention that. And I've even heard about a couple of fish running troller or crawler rigs already and getting fish. So things are moving along as far as fishing goes. Folks are picking up some muskies around the chain or around Mendota, Waubesa, or Monona, Waubesa, and pike are plentiful pretty much everywhere, and will grab pretty much anything. But it's hard to beat a large shiner or a small sucker under a bobber for those fish as well. With the rain we've had earlier this week, all area rivers and streams are running high, but I'll get into that a little bit more as we move through the report. As far as details go, up here in Cherokee, it's a weedy mess up there now. It's shore fishing from up there is very difficult. Maybe you could get away with some topwater. There's bass and pike in there that would certainly grab a frog. But otherwise, if you've got a small watercraft, you can launch here at the Cherokee Marsh Boat Launch and get out into the channel area up here, which is a lot more clear water. and work your way up or down and find some bass and pike through there. And, bluegills, anything really, a lot of fish swimming around. At the 113 bridge over here, like I said, the catfish bite is really the main thing going on over there. Cut bait's starting to winding down. Crawlers are picking up. And then, as we move on into summer, you get into stink bait too. But really, it's a crawler bite with some folks still doing well on cut bait in the 113 bridge area and also down um, in North Bay of Lake Mendota. So speaking of Lake Mendota, obviously it's the largest and coldest lake on the chain. So spawn has been a bit behind, but the other lakes. But I feel like we're still ahead of schedule compared to most years as far as spawning activity goes. Most of the fish being caught on Mendota are still coming out of shallow water. I'm hearing about bluegills on beds in several areas, but the crappies are done spawning, and the bass are just finishing up or are done. Bass are always hungry after spawning, and while smallmouth start to move out to deeper rocky areas, largemouth do remain shallow all summer. So if you're looking for rocky areas, you got Maple Bluff, Governor's Island, Fox Bluff, Picnic Point, all great spots where you can find some smallies. And the largies are all the other places shallow. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Mendota. I forgot to mention on the Tenney Park, they're getting a nice mixed bag over there around the break wall. But of course, in the river below the locks, it's really been a nice mixed bag of fish in there. I was hearing about big walleyes in there yesterday, which is super late because they've spawned long time ago. Muskies, sturgeon, bluegills, everything up and down this river. So, if you're looking for an easy shore fishing spot, the Yahara River through there at Tenney Park is a great spot to do it. Otherwise, down on Monona, kind of the same deal down there. Bluegills are on beds, crappies are moving off into a little deeper water. Bass are up, largemouth are up shallow. Smallmouth be a little bit deeper. But you got your spots over here like the Triangles and Monona Bay. The blue or the crappies have moved out of there. They're starting to get those a little bit up here at the wall, although it's not as thick as you might think. But the bluegills are in shallow spawning over there, and other popular spawning areas, of course, Turtle Bay, Weechawbuck, formerly known as Squaw Bay. Is a great spot, or really anywhere you can find. Up here on the north end, this is all pretty much a big shallow flat. A lot of bluegills up there, so that's happening. You got Lake Wingara over here. Of course, a lot of small gills. I've been hearing about some great muskie action up there. Although most of those fish tend to be on the smaller side, and there really is a good sleeper bass population in there with some real giants. But the weeds are starting to get pretty thick up there now. So, but it is worth a look. The area below the Wingara Dam also holding a lot of panfish right now, and not only just in front of the dam, but also down the river. So that can be a great spot to find some good panfish action. Otherwise, south of Lake Monona. Oh, and I guess I didn't mention muskies, but I haven't heard much about muskies. It's kind of a tough time of year for them out here. So that action will start to pick up here in June, though, pretty good. As far as south of Lake Monona goes, Lattice Park over here, this whole area, where the river runs through, holds a lot of panfish this time of year, especially bluegills, some crappies in there. But if you can get down to upper mud, those same fish, crappies and bluegills, going to be hanging out over here by the dredge hole. Otherwise, large flats here, weedy flats, and it's just a ton of small largemouth in there hanging out with their post-spawn feed bag on. So that's definitely something to check out if you like bass. As far as Wabisa goes, we got bluegills in the Lake Farm area, bluegills on the south end, bluegills basically everywhere. Shallow, so you can cruise around. You can find them on their beds pretty easy. But again, let's hold off on the harvest on those. Just enjoy and get some picks and let them go. But anyway, you got largemouth bass too in all these kind of shallow areas, recovering after spawn, and they're hungry, so bulking back up. Haven't heard much in the way of muskies. I have heard about some walleyes down here from Babcock over to Bible Camp in that area from some guys trolling, but. Otherwise, yeah, bluegills is pretty much the star of the show right now. The water is open below the Babcock Dam, and I've been hearing about some bass being caught out there. And in the Yahara River between Kegonsa and Wabisa, some good bass action. And in the Yahara, really, with pike and bass all the way down to Stoughton. But as far as Kegonsa goes, I haven't heard much out of there other than some good panfish action up here on this north end, big shallow flats up there. If you're looking for walleye, along the state park is usually a good spot to try. But I honestly, I don't hear much out of Lake Kegonsa. They're getting some fish down here in Indian Ford. The whole Rock River is high right now, but it's coming down, and they are getting some fish at Indian Ford, a nice mixed bag of white bass and some catfish down there, pike, whatever, smallies. Koshkonong, the walleyes have moved pretty much back out there. That's not to say you can't get them in the river in deeper holes, but a lot of those fish have moved back out of the lake, and I hear about a lot of good action trolling up here in the Black Hawk Island and the kind of the northeast end of the lake. Otherwise, on the river itself, like I said, it's running high, but they are still getting fish up at the Jefferson Dam. I have been hearing about some good white bass over there. We've got, where's Beaver Dam? There we go. Beaver Dam still got a good eater size catfish bite, so a lot of shore anglers taking advantage of that. If you like catfish, they're good eater size up there. And I imagine the bluegills are up shallow now too. Haven't heard anything out of Devil's Lake, but I'm sure folks will be getting up there pretty soon and catching some trouts. Otherwise, on the Wisconsin River, the river has been high, but it is still fishing well. I follow, of course, Kyle Zempel, Black Earth Angling Company, spoke at our final spring seminar talking about Wisconsin River smallies, and he's doing really well out there. So you can see from these pics some real nice fish that they're getting. So yeah, give him a follow and give him a call if you're looking to do some great fishing out on the Wisconsin River. But anyway, good smallie action this time of year, and that'll go all summer. Fishing at the dam is always a mixed bag. As far as Lake Wisconsin and all the other flowages go, it's a lot of your walleyes have moved from up in the river to spawn back down into flowages. They're getting them generally pretty shallow, but also more near breaks. So they're moving out to a little bit of deeper water as the water starts to warm up, and also good panfish action in all the kind of back bays and eddies and stuff like that. But that's going to be pretty much the deal for all the way up the river. So smallmouth action is great in the river itself, pike, stuff like that, awesome muskies even. But then you get up to the dams, you get a nice mixed bag of fish up there, and but all your reservoirs and stuff, Castle Rock Lake, Petenwell, all kind of the same deal. The walleyes are moving off, to breaks near adjacent to shallow water, but moving a little deeper now as we move into summer, and a lot of panfish in your inside bays. Otherwise, over the Mississippi River, same thing, some high water over there can make fishing difficult in the main channel. But what this does is it also makes living in the main channel if you're a fish difficult. So a lot of those fish like to move to calmer areas, so you can go and find especially panfish in backwater sloughs and stuff like that. The fishing over to Milwaukee in the Milwaukee River and other tributaries continues to be good for smallmouth. That's a fishery that's improving every single year. I enjoy going over there sometimes in the dog days of summer and catching some smallies. Good pike in there too. But out on the big lake is really, kind of the biggest news out there is that the coho are running. Harley, that works here at the shop, was over there the other day, caught a 2-man limit in no time. And Noah Helmfeld was in here this morning. He's been pounding the cohos. Austin Rogotsky also doing a great job, all the way from Kenosha all the way up to Port Washington and even up to Sheboygan. I've been hearing about some fish moving up there. So those cohos will continue to move up the shore as the water warms, and the kings will start to become a thing. They're already starting to pick up a few kings here and there, but that's more of like a mid-June, July thing. So anyway, keep you posted on that. Otherwise, not much else to report that I know of. As far as trout goes, like I said, a lot of your trout streams are running high and a little dirty with the rain, and the rain we're getting today certainly isn't going to help. So that can make dry fly fishing tough, but if you got spinning gear or Rapala Countdown, tube jigs, Panther Martins, or a small spoon, anything that kind of makes some noise is a good way to attract fish in the spinning gear side of things. Of course, if you're tossing meat, redworm under a bobber is hard to beat on any of our area streams. But on the fly side of things, a nice black woolly bugger, a dark, larger size like beadhead nymph can be really effective even when the water's cloudy. And fishing those in the same pools and tailouts, you might run a spinner through or something like that. But on the dry fly side of things, caddis and blueing olives have been coming off regularly. And other mayflies, I've been seeing a few larger varieties. I've heard about a couple sulfurs, a couple Hendricksons, coming off, March Browns that don't actually hatch in March. But anyway, some real interesting insect activity. I will say that I've been doing this a long time. I've been fly fishing a long time, and I got burned. I was out camping with the family, and we were on a great trout stream, and the fish started popping off, and the water was like boiling with rises. So it was a really exciting time. So I had my son throw out a parachute blue-winged olive, and he caught a couple fish, but not what you would think it was. And so we were thinking, well, are they on some kind of like caddis emerger? Or we tried those. We tried crane flies. We tried midges. I must have thrown 7 or 8 different flies at them. I could not get a bite. Like I said, my son only caught a couple fish, and they were just everywhere rising around us. And then I realized what I had realized a few years back is that it was late evening, and they had They were on spinners. So when I say spinners to people that don't fly fish, I'm not talking about spinners like you cast out on a rod and reel. Spinners is a term for the dead mayflies. After they hatch, they live a day or only a couple days. Then they lay their eggs and they die. And they land in the water. And when that happens, the trout take advantage of that. And it happens in great numbers. So when you're getting, and they call it a spinner fall or kind of a spent wing fly. And when that happens, you know, those spinners are literally the only thing that will work. And the fish are selective, and they know that why would you chase it? Why would you spend time chasing after something that might get away when you got these dead things that have just died and are perfectly good to eat? So I don't blame them, but I do have a selection of spinner flies here at the shop, several dozen, as a matter of fact. I did not have one in my box when I was out on the stream, so we got to sit there and watch the fish rise, and we got frustrated trying to catch them. But I'm certain if I'd had spinners in my box, they come in different colors and different sizes, and you can see it's just like a little bit of hair here that flares out, and you know, looks like a dead mayfly on the water. So make sure you got a couple spinners in your box. They typically come off in the evenings, these spinner falls, and like I said, there was some huge trout rising in these bugs, and we could not catch one of them. But anyway, enough story time there. I guess that pretty much does it for the report. I do want to thank you for tuning in. As always, feel free to call the shop if you want us to expand on anything, 241-4225 if you have any questions or, you know, want to know maybe some more detail about what's going on here in Madison. But I do thank you for tuning in, and I will talk to you next week. Good luck out there. Post your comments and catches below. Love to see that stuff. And yeah, we will talk to you next week. Thanks so much.